A German man is about to make one of the most crucial decisions in tennis history. He has come up with a new way of racket stringing and decided to begin selling them as spaghetti rackets. But then, the unexpected happened. The ITF prohibited the use of his invention. Nobody could use it anymore. So the question must be asked, why was it banned? Welcome to the insane true story of why nobody can use the spaghetti racket. In 1971, deep in the heart of Bavaria, Germany, a horticulturist named Werner Fischer had an idea that would change tennis forever. Fischer wasn't a racket manufacturer or pro player, but he had a big vision. While players focused on their game, Fischer worked in his small workshop, focused on the equipment, specifically the strings. Fischer developed a revolutionary way to string rackets. His design featured two main strings, one set behind and one in front of each cross string, and 5 parallel cross strings instead of the traditional 20. The design was complex and, as it turned out, incredibly effective. This invention became known as the Spaghetti Racket, after the plastic tubes resembling macaroni woven through the strings. After years of meticulous work and development, the racket was finally launched in 1976, but no one was ready for what was coming. Fischer partnered with German inventor Siegfried Kubler, known for innovations in tennis. Kubler began crafting frames for Fischer's system, and soon the original Werner Fischer racket hit the market. It wasn't long before the unusual new racket caught international attention. Some people called it the miraculous weapon due to its incredible ability, yet not everyone shared the enthusiasm. The racket cost Fischer 3 hours to make, but he sold it for 60 to 70 euros, causing controversy. Still, his business grew, and offers poured in from major companies excited to own the special rights to this new racket stringing system. Little did he know, something great was about to happen. The American Michael Fishbach, ranked 200th in 1977, was in a camera shop in Europe when something caught his eye. In a corner was one of Fischer's strange rackets. Intrigued by the design, Fishbach bought it and took it home to New York. Along with his brother, he meticulously recreated the racket in his own garage where they worked for 30 hours, threading the strings through the frame. Fishbach brought his custom racket to the US Open qualifiers, and no one could have predicted what happened next. Fishbach used his spaghetti racket to defeat the legendary Stan Smith. The media exploded, and the tennis world began to question whether the racket was a semi-secret weapon. Was it even legal? Technically, yes. At that time, there were no restrictions on racket design, meaning Fischer's invention was unstoppable. As fame spread, Fischer partnered with US distributor Günther Hartz to expand his business abroad. Hartz helped market the racket internationally and convinced more players to try it out. Spaghetti mania took over the tennis world, and demand skyrocketed, leading to a waiting list of over a year. While some players loved it, others hated it. It wasn't just the spin that was controversial, it was the unpredictability of the ball's movement. The unusual stringing pattern made the ball bounce in strange, erratic ways, and players found it nearly impossible to read their opponent's shots. Pressure intensified on the ITF to step in. Many top players openly shared their complaints, arguing that the spaghetti racket was ruining the sport. Tennis legend Ilie Nastase was so annoyed after losing to a spaghetti racket player that he promised never to play against one again. What made the spaghetti racket so special was how it manipulated the ball's spin. Unlike traditional stringing patterns, Fischer's design allowed the strings to move freely when hitting the ball, minimizing friction. The 5 cross strings weren't interwoven like in conventional rackets, they simply passed through each pair of mains. This movement let the mains move dramatically on contact, increasing spin potential. Additionally, the plastic tubing covering the strings helped reduce friction at the intersection points, making the racket's performance last longer and giving players an edge that traditional rackets simply couldn't match. The racket excelled in ground strokes but struggled with serves and volleys, creating immense spin but lacking power. Still, this unpredictability made it a dangerous weapon on the court, enough to help lower-ranked players win more often, but this wouldn't last for long. Initially, the ITF allowed the spaghetti racket at the professional level, but the controversy grew. At the Aix-en-Provence tournament, Nastase, who had promised to stop using the racket, showed up with one of his own. He used it to win the tournament, including a victory over Guillermo Vilas, who was in the middle of a 55-match winning streak. Vilas and coach TIEBREAK protested he hadn't lost to a player, but to a racket. This is why the cry became impossible for the ITF to ignore. Philip Chatrier, the president of the ITF, tested the racket himself and quickly realized something had to be done. By July 1977, the ITF still allowed the racket, but tensions escalated. This is why the ITF was forced to reconsider its position. Thus, in 1978, they officially banned the Spaghetti Racket. The new rules dictated how rackets had to be strung, introducing specific weaving patterns and disallowing anything that resembled Fischer's iconic invention. For Werner Fischer, the ban marked the end of his business. Despite the racket's success, the ITF's decision left him bankrupt, and he returned to horticulture. The Spaghetti Racket was relegated to museums and private collections. Michael Fishbach, who had capitalized on the racket's brief legality, fondly remembers his victories with the Spaghetti Racket, calling it his magic wand. Though Fischer's invention is no longer allowed in professional play, its legacy lasts, a testament to how one idea, no matter how unconventional, can revolutionize an entire sport. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, why don't you check this one about why Federer left Nike? Something tells me you'll like it.